what is a translator? So let us understand a translator in detail. Before going into it, let me explain some scenario. Imagine there are two persons, person A and person B. Person A knows Telugu language, person B knows Hindi language, right? Now they both want to communicate with each other. How this communication will be a successful communication? Because there is a challenge that the person who knows Telugu cannot understand Hindi, and the person who knows Hindi cannot understand Telugu. Here, the gesture communication is also not successful, or it is not possible. Now, how you can make the person A and the person B to communicate with each other successfully? Just understand the scenario here, how you can be successfully making them communicate with each other. Now you would have get many things in your mind, like how this communication will be processed, but in a simpler way, I'm just giving this. The person C is an intermediate person who understands or who knows both the languages, Telugu as well as Hindi. Now this person, the intermediate person C, is called as a translator between the persons A and B. Okay. Now here A gives an instruction to C. C tries to understand it and translate the same instructions to the B in Hindi, right? Then the response from B is given again back to C, that is to the translator, and from the translator he will convert it into Telugu and he will give the response to the person A. So this is how the communication between A and B, in spite of they don't know the common language, they can easily communicate. Now let us understand what are all the challenges or what are all the demerits in this kind of a communication. The first and foremost thing is, you are giving your valuable information to some unknown person. Okay, this is the first challenge. The second demerit is, we are unable to identify the translator. Imagine now we got here the person who knows Telugu and Hindi as a common between Telugu person and Hindi person. But imagine a scenario where there is a person who knows English. Now the translator knows only Telugu and Hindi, right? So it is very difficult to find out a translator for the successful communication every time for every user. This is the second demerit. And the third demerit is, it takes much time for converting the exact whatever the A is saying to make a B to understand. So these are some of the demerits of identifying a translator, right? Now coming to the programming language, the same way how we have seen the scenario between A and B, now let us try to understand the same scenario with a user, right, followed by a computer, right? Computer, or you can take any hardware devices. A user knows high level language, which as an example we know English. Similarly, a device or any hardware component knows low level language, which is in the form of ones and zeros, which is also called as binary language. Okay, as we have seen in the earlier case, as person A knows Telugu, person B knows Hindi, The same scenario here is users can understand and can write in English, but machine understands only in the form of binary language, that is in the form of ones and zeros. Now, according to our earlier example, we have seen a person C who is a translator between A and B. Similarly, between user and a system hardware, there should be also a translator in between. Such kind of translators we have as part of our programming language. They are, the first one is interpreter, the second one is compiler, the third one is assembler. Most of the times we will be hearing the word called compiler, right? So before understanding what is a compiler, let us first understand what is an interpreter. So interpreter is nothing but it is used for converting high level language to low level language in line by line. Okay? So a high level language is converted into low level language line by line. One line after converting, it goes for the second line, right? This is what an interpreter does. And the second one is compiler. What is a compiler? A compiler converts high level language to low level language by considering or by taking the entire program at a time. Okay? The first interpreter we have seen, it takes and converts in line by line, and the second one, compiler, it takes the entire program at a time and converts into low level language. And the third one is assembler. So what is the job of an assembler is it converts an assembly level language into low level language. And this assembly level language is very closer for the hardware devices. Okay? And in assembly level language, we use mnemonic codes, which are like add, sub, mul, move, and these will be applied on the registers. We also have some categories of the registers like higher order registers, lower order registers, right? Depending upon those registers, we can give the instructions directly and we can get our job done. And these assembly level languages are mostly used in embedded C or embedded programming. And this is machine friendly language, right? So these are all the three different translators which are there in our C programming language. Compiler is very important. What is a compiler? So a compiler converts high level language to low level language by taking the entire program at a time, right? And the other very important feature of compiler is it identifies the syntax and semantic errors which are done by the programmers. While we are typing a program, maybe because of some typo errors, your compiler cannot exactly identify what your instruction is. That is giving a syntax or semantic errors. Compilers are used for the different programming languages. Each and every programming language has its own compilers. The very important thing to understand as part of compiler is it is not a hardware component. It is purely written with the programs. How regarding to your programming language? C has its own compiler. Similarly, C++ has its own compiler. Java has its own compiler. Python has its own compiler. R language has its own compiler. Any programming language you take, they have its own compilers to make the high level language understand by the system. So this is what in detail about a compiler. and these are the different translators.